welcome to Coffee with Christy and crew, y'all. I'm going to give you a few minutes to jump on. We've got a fantastic group of guests today, and I think it's going to be a really fun topic that we've had a lot of coaching clients reach out to. So while we're waiting for people to jump on, I just wanted to give you guys our upcoming schedule of events because we're really excited. Steph and I are actually very excited that we're going back out on the road again after a couple of years of virtual. So we do have both virtual and in-person things coming up. So we have Stephanie Brackett teaching Systems Are Sexy, April 7th and 8th virtually. And we have 10 Secrets of a Mega EA virtual, April 20th and 21st with me. And then we will be in person. If you're in any of the areas, you're going to want to drive into Kansas City, Missouri, Fort Mill, South Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia, and Rochester, New York. And if you're listening and we're not coming to your city yet and you want us to, reach out to us because we are more than happy to do that. And then coaching clients. So this Coffee with Christy is live streaming in our Be a Boss Facebook group. We'll put it up on YouTube publicly later. But those of you who are our coaching clients, I know I've been getting this question a lot, which is when are the retreat tickets coming out? We are hoping to release those first to you in April. You will have first crack at that before we go out to early notification list and then to the public. So that's what's coming. So let's dive in. Our topic today was more than one chef in the kitchen, right? So what does that mean? I learned this last time I was in Paris, that the word chef, actually it wasn't in Paris, it was at the retreat last year because we had a chef come and speak. The word chef actually means boss. So chef is like the leader, and in French, chef means leader. It's not boss, like I'm bossing you around. It's I'm bossy, I'm a leader. So chief, boss, leader. What happens when you have more than one on a team? They might be family members who own the team together. They might be like Jess and Kalan, where it's one family member owns the team, the other one is in production. It might be two unrelated, or like Stephanie's team, three unrelated owners who own the team together. What are the dynamics does that create? What are the challenges and what are the opportunities? So I asked our guests here, who I think are doing a great job at that, and also who have navigated through some of those muddy waters, to come and help clear the air for us. So Lucas and Elissa, let's start with you guys, if you guys would introduce yourselves. And if those of you who are listening, if you want to put questions in the comments, that would be awesome as well. So go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Me? All right.
Lucas
so I'm Elissa Howard.
I'm Lucas Howard.
My role is COO of the Lucas Howard Group, and we are married. We have been for 18 years. We have 3 kids. We have multiple businesses, run a team, and what else we got going on? We served over 400 families last year, and we will serve over 500 this year, right, Sam? And we love what we do, and we love working together, and somehow we're all going strong here. So
we're figuring it out. Awesome. And then we have Sam. Sam, introduce yourself.
My name is Sam. I am the director of client care for the Lucas Howard Group, and all things, everything. I do it all. I'm just a big leverage piece, essentially.
Does it all. I love it. So that's good, because we wanted to have both perspectives here, right? The people who are leading or who are related, and then the rest of the team. I've heard some people call it the redheaded stepchildren, right? That's the negative side. We want to explore that, and then the positive ways around that too. So Jess, do you and Kalan want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. I am Jessica Hubbard of Hubbard Realty Group, and
I'm Kalan Hubbard.
And we are married, and now officially own the brokerage Hubbard Realty Group. We split off the team into an independent brokerage. So I am the CEO of the team, and Kalan is our lead listing agent, and also both have many other hats on the team.
Mainly listing agent and recruitment.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. And then, and for those of you listening, because I love this part of it too, Jess is not in sales. She's the CEO of the team, and she has built the team through the operations side. So
Right.
I love that part too.
Yep.
Tally, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Tally, and I'm the DOO of Hubbard Realty Group.
And you are virtual in New York, and
Yes.
your Realty Group is in Missouri.
Not bad, yes.
So another twist. Awesome. Steph.
Stephanie Brackett. I am currently the COO of Anderson Hicks Group out of Idaho Falls, Idaho. I'm also a coach for Ops Boss Coaching. So is Jessica. She didn't mention that. And I've actually known Jess and Elissa. I actually coach Elissa, which is awesome. She's one of my favorites. I mean, they're all my favorites, but
I'm gonna say, what about,
Elissa's just
what
one
about
of those
me?
people that's like, I don't know. She's just crazy, and I just love her. She's just crazy. And Jess and I have been friends forever. And so I've actually got to see her and Kalan kind of grow up their relationship through. Yeah. And Elissa happened to be in my very first Be a Boss class that I ever taught.
Oh, that's right. Wow. Time
Yeah.
flies. And
Yeah.
Steph, your team has 3.
We have 3 owners. So it was a merged team, and Mike Hicks owned his team. Anderson owned his team. I was with Sean, and Mike had a sales director with him. And so all 3 of them, when we merged, are now, they own the team, the 3 of them together. So I have 3 basically people I'm reporting to on a daily basis.
And we're seeing more and more of that in the industry, right? As teams are merging, you know, I think about
100%.
Coalition Properties right here where I am in DC, and they've got 3 awesome rainmakers who are partners. So, and Brooke, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Brooke, and I'm the systems boss for Ops Boss Coaching, and excited to be here.
And we're actually a family team. I didn't think about it till right this moment, but our CFO is my husband, Bill. So, and he's not on the call because he's otherwise occupied with baseball season. So let's dive in. I thought first, maybe let's talk about how your businesses started, how your partnerships, those of you who are maybe Elissa and Lucas and Jessica and Kalan, what were some of the challenges that you had both being in the business together? And then after that, I want to go to Sam and Tally of how does that affect you? And maybe you haven't been there the whole way, so you may be seeing the benefits of what they went through, but let's just maybe start there. So with Lucas and Elissa.
Yeah, to be quite frank, I was blessed to have a coach before Elissa came on. And when I told him, hey, I want to hire my bride, he kind of said, 1, you're crazy. And 2, if you're going to do it, grab a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, and get very clear, Luke, get very clear on roles and responsibilities. And we're very 2 different people. I did that and then came back, handed in my homework, and he said, great, flip it over, and who reports to who for what? When are you meeting to discuss certain things? And I was like, well, hold on, it's me. I don't have anybody yet. And he goes, it doesn't matter, map it out. So I was blessed early on to have a coach to make me think. And by all means, it was not perfect, because then you implement and then you get in together and get clarity on those things. Christy, we've talked about this before. Early on, we came up with verbal cues and even hand gestures. This meant, let's stay in our lane. Early on.
That's good. I see Jess and Kalan nodding, like I get that one. Okay, so stay in your lane.
Stay in there, and it's usually my hand by my side, kind of going like this. We had, to be honest, I don't think we've used any of our cues in a long time.
He doesn't grunt anymore at night when we go to bed, and I'm like, my brain's still like, I'm like, no, what happened with this? So you'd be like,
Well,
oh,
okay, so you bring up the nighttime conversation. That's a question that I hear all around all the time from people on the team is my leaders or my people on the team talk about stuff at home and then we're not in the loop. And so does that, Sam and Tally, has that ever happened on your team where like they have a private conversation, or have they kind of mastered not doing that?
I mean, maybe they might, but I never feel like left out of the loop of anything. You know, Lucas or Elissa will say, hey, Elissa mentioned this last night to me. Let's talk it through together. So, I mean, we're always pulled in on any topic that would affect us in any way. So.
And was that something you developed over time, Luke and Elissa? Or?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, administrative support is the key role of getting of moving anything forward, right? So I love my husband and he's not on the administrative side, right? So you're always going to pull those people in, otherwise you're duplicating your conversation and then you're wasting more time. So it just makes sense for, bring it in, have these meetings. And Sam and I talk quite often.
I'll tie that in because to answer your question more direct, yes, it took a lot of practice and probably years of getting that balance at home. I'll also tie this to probably the number one benefit of having a partnership, a relationship like this with family is trust. I mean, there's a level of trust, or should be a level of trust in that relationship to own your side. Where initially laying in bed, we're picking, well, tell me about this. And then her back on my side, well, tell me about this. In reality, if we weren't each other and had separate roles or different people, we wouldn't be laying in bed picking each other. We would have to have trust for that person to do their job and do it at the same level. So it's a benefit to have that trust in the relationship. And I think it's a learned skill to let go and trust.
Well, it's a control thing, right? So we all have, well, I know I had at the very beginning, I had control issues, which now I'm just like, take it all. I'll give it to you for free. So those trust, trust is a big thing. And since our personalities are totally different. And I'm like, I was like, hey, can you take the trash out? And then you look back and you're like, oh, the trash isn't out yet. And they're like, I'll get to it. And I'm like, oh, no. That trash needs to go out now. So, just two different personalities. And I don't think I trusted him for a while. Not that I didn't trust him, but it was like, you're not doing it fast enough for me. Right. But as he does one thing at a time and he's super good at that. And he focuses, where I'm like ADD bouncing off the walls and I'm ping all over the place. So I feel like I didn't trust him for a while. And then realizing that, I don't need to control everything. I need to let it go. I need to let others succeed through me. And that was huge. And now honestly, like, we work together, but at the end of the day, like, we'll go a whole day and we literally won't talk to each other because we have our own people that we're talking to, reporting to, really
So your boundaries have gotten much stronger.
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
Also, yeah.
If we do ask each other something, Christy, it's like I can respond, hey, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
My side, I got it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Jess, Kalan, what would you guys add to the conversation? What have you learned over time that you didn't know in the beginning? Or maybe it's always been in the beginning that it's been okay. And how would you, if people are struggling, what would you tell them?
So going back to your question about those off, conversations, Tally probably doesn't know how many of our conversations, laying in bed end with Jessica saying, I'll get with Tally on that. And then we go to sleep. we hash out a lot of stuff at the end of the day, and then that bleeds into dinner at times, and then after dinner at times. But I think you're really good at, okay, when we have those conversations, we define next step pretty well. And a lot of that is operational, or it's either, okay, I'm going to talk to DOO, which is Tally, or our director of sales, we go with somebody else. But I think that's a good thing that we've developed over time, is those side conversations end with, okay, next step, whether it's, okay, I need to take this, you need to take this, I need to talk to Tally, I need to talk to Jill, whatever that is.
We've also, from the very beginning, So I'm kind of a watcher, and I analyze and then take that information in and learn from other people. And kind of going to Lucas's comment of the coach and defining roles and stuff like that. I have seen plenty of, I actually come from a family too of people who work together, entrepreneurs who work together. And so I've seen all sorts of teams and family members and all sorts of stuff work together. And I've also seen others that just kind of implode because they work together. And so it was very, very important to me when Kalan came on and got out of teaching that we did not implode our relationship based on working together. So we've always taken the stance that at work, we are two business people who just happen to be married. And then at home, we are two married people who happen to be in business together. And so some of the common language with that is sometimes we have to have a conversation of, okay, I am putting on my work hat right now. I'm putting on my wife hat. I'm putting on whatever hat it is, because I can, if I get on an event, maybe at home over something and just let it all out, he might take it more personally because we're at home versus, oh, wait, no, I have my CEO hat on. This is not anything about you. I just need to release it somewhere, and vice versa.
Yeah, I love that. That's actually a great script that I was on a family team as well. Mm-hmm. That sometimes I had to say, hey, I'm putting on my COO hat for this conversation. And when I take it off, now I want to have my I'm your sister conversation. Yep. And then, yeah, that's a good script.
I appreciate her saying, I need you to have this hat on. I need you to hear this with this hat on. I appreciate that. Like, I need you to be my husband right now. Tell me, react in this way. It helps me a lot to hear that's the way as well.
Okay, so I have a question, whoever wants to answer it, because this question came to me. There's oftentimes on small teams with family members on the team where they're having a conversation that should be a business conversation, but one or the other or both of them have the personal hat on, and it affects the rest of the team, and the team isn't sure, how do we navigate that? What would your advice be to them? Because I'm hearing you guys have done a great job and you've created boundaries and you've worked into this, but there are many teams where these conversations are happening on teams and there's not clarity on roles, and now the team member's stuck sort of between two owners who have different ways of thinking, different goals, things like that.
Yeah.
Advice?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was going to say clarity on roles is huge. I mean, going back to that, who reports to who over what and what lanes they are. And I know they get a little fuzzy at times. And, as we're growing different parts of the team, those lanes kind of curve a little bit at times, but just being very, very clear from the get-go of what those lanes are, and giving your operations people, I feel like Tally can, like, if there was an issue that we were having some sort of personal fight or whatnot, I feel like Tally would feel okay enough to come to me and say, hey, you might want to calm that down a little bit.
Tally, Sam, what if that's, I'm assuming that's the case. I know you guys well enough to know that you have great relationships. What is it that your leaders have done to empower you to feel like you could have those conversations if needed?
I feel like for me, just cultivating the relationship, like I feel like I have a really good relationship with Jessica and Kalan. So I've never had a time where I've had to say something, which like haven't really ever had to say something, but I've never come to them with anything and felt like I couldn't say what I needed to. So I think that's really important, and trust in that.
Sam, anything you want to add?
I feel the same way as well. And say I'm having an issue personally, professionally, and I say it in front of both of them, Lucas will be like, oh, I'll let Elissa take this one. Or like, there's just, the boundaries are so clear. But yeah, I've never felt like I couldn't go to either of them ever. And I think, like Tally said, that all comes back and ties into culture, just who we are. We spend so much time together, and it's just like building those solid relationships between each other where nothing feels uncomfortable to bring to them. Like I'm 100% comfortable with having any type of fierce conversation about anything.
Well, encouraging them to have
Yeah.
those conversations with you, right? Empowering them to, because
Right.
if you're holding back, that's not good.
Right.
Not helping anybody at the end of the day.
Yeah. And that foundation was laid first day I was here. Well, even in the CV process, it was laid. Elissa would mention this is how we are. And if you're someone who holds back, it's not going to be good when it comes to communication, and she always welcomed where all of us are open books, and it's not going to benefit anyone to hold anything back.
I think that extends to a lot of those. I mean, when you work together with so many people, you're just going to have tough conversations. And it's that getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. I feel like I feel like as a team, we're almost proud when we have an uncomfortable conversation. Like, look what we just did. Like that was a great conversation. And when it's celebrated, it's liable to happen again, just like anything else. And when we're like, you know what, thank you for having that tough conversation. And then when you have that culture, the marriage part falls right into that. If we had to talk about, how marriage is affecting the business, I feel like our team could do that because we celebrate being uncomfortable. If that makes sense.
Tactfully brutal is one of our core values under understanding. So it goes along with it.
Love that.
The conversation
when
is
your
the relationship.
Conversation is a relationship, 100%. When your team merged and you had two primary owners, right, who each were Gary Keller mastermind teams in their own right, merging together, did you in the beginning have any issues with each owner used to directing what should happen, or people going to operations team members saying, no, I want you to do it this way? Or I vaguely remember some issues with like some Zillow stuff. So if I'm on a team like that, because I think when you have multiple owners, they all feel like they own 100% of the business, right? And the staff sometimes struggles with, okay, but he said this, and he said the other owner said this, and I'm not sure how to do it. Did you have those issues? And if so, how did you solve them? And how can you empower the people listening who are on teams to solve that problem on their team?
Well, it's obviously an ongoing problem. It still happens, to this day, where you feel like you have like, who do I listen to? I've got two different people telling me two different things. First step is it goes back to getting in your lane. Who owns what? And if you don't have clarity on who owns what, and let me tell you, when you have owners that come together that used to own the whole thing, right? They were both used to owning everything, and now they both own only part of it. It's really hard, and you get egos in the way, and there's a lot of different things that get in the way of people being able to see, okay, nope, that's not mine. I'm not going to take it. Go talk to so-and-so about it. So the first thing is, like Lucas said, and like Jessica said right at the beginning, like you have to be 100% clear on who owns what. If two people own something, nobody does, and it makes it ugly and unbearable. The second thing is you have to be able to have trust. And every single person on this call has mentioned that word at least one time. And I would say it's probably the most crucial part of any hard conversation is trust. I have to be able to trust that I can tell someone something and trust that they're not going to make me feel shameful or all these other negative connotations that you have when you open yourself up and tell someone, hey, I don't like how you talk to me about that. Or, hey, I don't like how that made me feel. Like, we probably all read 5 Dysfunctions of Teams, right? And like the number one dysfunction is a lack of trust. If you don't have trust, you can't have those hard conversations. So if you're having a hard time navigating between 2 owners or 3 owners, I would go back and look at your trust relationship with them. Are you gravitating more towards this one because you have more trust in this one? And you're staying away from this one because you lack trust with this one. So you've got to figure out, how do you develop that trust with them? And it's a two-way street. It's not just, you can't just blame them for not trusting. Maybe they don't trust you to be vulnerable as well. Or maybe you've reacted badly when they tried to be like, hey, when we had that conversation, you kind of had a bad reaction. I was really expecting to see this out of you, and instead I saw this. So it's a two-way street, but without trust, there are no hard conversations. And Kalan just said they celebrate when they have a hard conversation because they have the trust that they're able to have those hard conversations.
And that's a great book. Thank you for recommending that. I've actually, my experience being on a family team was we didn't even have enough trust to give the book out to our team and read it together because we knew it wasn't going to come out very good. And ultimately, right? So that's really good. You said something else in there that I wanted to dive into, but now I don't remember what it was. So
probably about egos getting in the way, maybe.
Well,
I mean, if I could touch
and,
on
mine
that
included. It wasn't just
Something
theirs. Like, it was mine included. But yeah, Jess, go ahead.
something in what Steph said, in defining lanes and roles too, that doesn't ever mean that you have to establish it at the beginning, and that is how it's going to be for the next, however long you run the team. So, because there have been times that I've had something on my plate or Kalan's had something on his, and we have gotten a year into this new project, and I realized I am really not good at agent one-on-ones. I need somebody to do that for me. Or Kalan might decide, he's in having that conversation, being able to redefine the lanes, but redefine them in a way that, Tally's not confused whose lane it's in or what lane she's in or anything like that. And sometimes that's an ego check. Like, oh, I should be the one doing this because of this reason, or I can't handle that, but it may not fall into my strengths or Kalan's strengths or Tally's strengths.
So that's where I wanted to add.
Because good at everything.
What?
I said Lucas just says I'm good at everything, even doing the dishes.
I know he's good at vacuuming. I see him on Facebook every week.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I literally just took the trash out 5 minutes before.
Yes.
Well, you know what? In a small business, we're all the janitor and we're all the CEO, right? Exactly. I think along the lines of defining roles and being clear on who owns what, sometimes that conversation happens between the owners and it's not communicated out to the team. So I think I just wanted to add that point of making sure that the team is completely clear on who owns what. Because it's great if you guys know, but if they don't know, then there's a lot of confusion.
And not just owning it, Christy, but once you decide who owns it, actually adhering to those principles, right? So if I go to someone to ask about sales something and they're not the salesperson, they need to be like, you know what, that is a great question. Can you go ask so-and-so and get that clear? That's the issue, is we say, nope, you own it. And then we continue to meddle in it.
Mm-hmm.
You need to support and back that person.
100%.
Well, it's going off, it's like your org chart, right? And when you're small in your family and all these, all the feelings, and then you go to more, you're still family, yet you're running a business here, and you have other people coming in. And this is kind of where we're at right now, where we have, Sam, like I back Sam, and we need to redirect the people that come to us when it's not for us. Like, don't come to us anymore. You need to redirect to the person that they report to, right? And that's one of the biggest things that I think people that we were actually bad at is, and we're getting better at now, is actually following and adhering to an org chart and saying these are these people's positions and these are who you go to. And I'm not going to not answer the question. I'm just going to redirect.
I'm going to add a really big hint here, and I guarantee anybody that's going through this will not even know what's happening. If you have children, you may recognize it, because now Sam is the person, as an example. Formerly, they would have come to Elissa. They may have gone to Sam and not liked what they heard, and then go to mom.
Mhm.
If you're then answering and not directing, well,
Yeah.
have you talked to Sam?
Yeah.
That's another way of not backing the person that you put in control, and you're letting the kids run wild.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't like what mom said, so I'm gonna go ask that.
Yeah.
Right.
Doing
Anna
that
is a master
sooner
at
than
that.
later is so big. Like, just if you're on this call, like, do that yesterday, just because it's so painful. Like, we've felt that pain since we've been restructuring, and it's, yeah.
I would say that we are having had the kind of same struggles as we implement a leadership team, because now with a DOO and DOS in play, you know, and everybody's kind of used to funneling to me to questions or to Kalan.
Mm-hmm.
And us as a LT has started establishing our lanes. Our explanation to the team on lanes and who does what now wasn't as strong as what it could have been. And we found that out the hard way. That whole define your lane, when we brought on the additional LT, then we didn't define as easily, and it explained that to the rest of the team. So we definitely had struggles there.
I think it's probably the only way to clearly define those is to, like, some of those you just can't know until they happen, and you got to give yourself some grace of, oh, that should have went here. Let's get this everyone understand this is now in this person's lane, you know, and understand, oh, we have been doing it this way. Let's cut that. Give yourself some grace that it's not like, oh, we did a retreat, we established all the lanes. Now everybody on the whole team understands all the lanes and all the questions. Understand that that's always going to be a work in progress, and that's always going to be just a living thing.
Yeah, because hopefully our businesses are dynamic and growing, right? Constantly changing. If they're not, and everything's clear all the time, then we're probably not succeeding in our business. My ops brain is going somewhere weird right now, which is literally thinking, I already heard 10 different scripts that could be handy for the ops person with the leader challenge, and for rainmakers who are related or in partnership, and the scripts. Super simple. So we all have script manuals. Do we have scripts in there for our leaders about how to redirect people, you know, how to have a fierce conversation about this topic? Just a small side note there. So I want to just read a couple of the comments that we got. And if you guys have any additional suggestions and cures for this, jump in with that. And then I want to flip the dynamic to, okay, we talked about all the challenges and the problems and the roadblocks. What are the awesome things, and how can we, either as owners or as team members, leverage the positive sides of having multiple Rainmaker owners? Some of the challenges people put were opposing viewpoints on budget and priorities, and not getting clear messages and being able to have clear decisions. Navigating relationship fights when they happen in the office. I don't know, that sounds like it hasn't happened to you guys.
Oh, it's Mike and Sean all the time. Just kidding.
I don't see Mike doing that. And Sean would just, yeah.
Their marriage fights. I'm just kidding.
One partner feeling like the go-to and the other feeling like the team doesn't respect their opinion. One is laser focused on goals and benchmarks, constantly striving and pushing for improvement. The other is more relaxed and comforting and has a we're all doing the best we can attitude, which is hard to reconcile the messaging when communicating with the team. Any advice for any of those situations?
The opposing viewpoints on budget and priorities. I think that we gave all the budget and the prioritizing of the money to the DOO. And I think that helps us because Lucas thinks money should go to one thing and Elissa thinks money should go to the other thing. But you know what? Rhonda has the say at the end of the day, and she makes the decision. And so she follows her budget to a T. And I think giving it to a separate party takes out the emotions from the two people. And everyone meets on the budget in the beginning, and it's all agreed upon. and you just need that one person to carry it out and keep everyone on track. So I think that's super important when it comes to budgeting and finances.
And she's not just having lip service. I know this for a fact because Elissa and I were part-time coaching, and she's like, I want to go full-time, but I need to check with Rhonda. Like, this is Elissa's company. It's her own company. And she said, I want to go full-time. Let me check with Rhonda on the budget. And she ran it through Rhonda. It wasn't like she's just like, I'm just going to go spend this money. This isn't lip service. They're serious. Rhonda had the say in where the money goes.
Yep. And when we went to family reunion, I held the card. I was the mom, and that's how we do it. And it works.
That's awesome. I love that because it takes the emotion out of it and it makes it all business decisions, which is what we should be doing, right? Business decisions. Money, for some reason, causes lots of emotion.
That's actually something we are moving to this year as well. And we've had talks with Tally on as far as being the gatekeeper of that, because I can spend money on anything if I think it's valuable to the team and, an education piece, a new program, whatever. And Kalen's like, why are we spending $15 on this?
I don't want to spend money on anything.
So having the third party to keep, me accountable, our ROI accountable, Kalan at ease on some things. We are definitely looking forward to that this year.
Yeah, love that. I mean, it's kind of like marriage. My husband and I used to teach pre-Cana and marriage, wedding preparation for engaged couples. And you have to figure out, maybe you don't have that person who's ready to take over the P&L like Rhonda. Rhonda's been with you guys for a long time. You have a lot of trust. She's built up and earned that role. And some teams maybe don't have that person. So what are the guidelines that are on your team so that we're not making emotional decisions? Is it like, oh, Jess, you can spend up to X amount without talking it over with me, and after X amount on an expense, this should be a discussion that we decide on together. That's just a really simple rule. Okay, so let's turn on to the positive side. What are the things that you think are awesome about multiple owner relationships and or family members on teams, and how can we leverage those to our advantage and turn that into an opportunity that teams that don't have this dynamic don't have?
Definitely like having multiple strengths. Like you have people that are really good and you can keep people in their top 20% instead of you're the team owner and you got to deal with everything. Maybe you hate coaching agents, you love budgeting and numbers, right? If you're the only team owner, sorry, you got to do both. You got to, deal with budgeting and numbers and spreadsheets and tracking, and you've got to deal with coaching agents. Well, when you have multiple owners, you can leverage their strengths. Like Sean loves numbers. He loves them. He loves spreadsheets. He totally geeks out on that. Mike could care less. Mike likes the numbers, but he's not going to geek out on spreadsheet. But Mike
likes the money.
Yeah. Mike likes coaching agents. He loves it. He loves agents in his office saying, hey, I got this deal falling apart. And Mike's like, no problem. Let's figure out how we can keep it together. That's his jam. And he loves that. And so it was very cool to have multiple strengths where you could keep people in their strength zone and let them really rise to the top on their top 20%.
As you guys were merging, was that a significant part of the conversation in terms of evaluating what people's strengths were?
I would say one of the mistakes we made in merging was not clearly defining roles. It was kind of one of those, and I don't know if it was an ego thing, if it was afraid to have this conversation thing, but we never really got 100% clear on who was going to do what. It just kind of evolved over the past 3 years as to like, okay, you know what, when it comes to like development, and if it comes to, agents have deals falling apart, like chief advisor types, that's Mike. That's totally Mike. If it comes to like, I'm not performing as well, I'm tracking my numbers and I don't know what I should do in order to, that's Sean. Like it kind of evolved, and it probably just would have been a lot faster. We would have gotten there a lot faster had we been able to have that conversation up front and said, okay, these are the lanes. So
yeah,
husband,
and
wife, it's a lot easier.
Conversation ongoing as well. I think
100%.
Sometimes like I see teams come together or teams form, and in their first year, they do their big org chart, they define everything. And then 3 years go by and everything has changed, but nobody's really articulated what the changes are and is this the way we want it?
Yeah. And when you don't have a husband-wife relationship, I mean, Lucas and Elissa and Jess and Kalan, they love each other. There is 100% trust there in themselves, right? They have this really strong relationship. And when you're dealing with mergers and acquisitions, you're missing that piece. So you have to figure out how do I develop this trust in the business relationship in order to be able to have a conversation that says, okay, here's what I love to do, and here's where I'd love to focus, and here's what I think you're good at. And can we have this conversation and say, okay, here's my lane, here's your lane, and move forward. You've got to figure out how to build that trust enough to have that conversation.
And that takes time. Trust doesn't develop overnight. Operations people who are on the call and listening back later, you guys can drive these conversations too. You don't have to wait for your rainmaker to say, oh, this is our vision, this is our org chart, and this is what our job descriptions are, because visionary is probably not going to sit down and write that out. So ask if you can collaborate and partner with them to develop the clarity that you need so that you are empowered to do an awesome job at whatever your role is, right? This should be a partnership and a collaboration. This is not we're waiting for them to tell us what the roles are going to be, right?
And oftentimes we see their blind spots that they don't see, and we can help them and say, you know what, like, I hate to tell you this, but the way you just talked to that person, they did not receive that well. That was not a great conversation. And I think maybe you have a blind spot there, the way you talk to them. Can we talk about that? And maybe that's not the best and greatest use of your time to coach agents.
I think team members, Tally and Sam, probably have in some ways more trust built up in certain areas on the team than potentially the related rainmakers do. Meaning people on the team might say something to a team member who's not related that they aren't necessarily comfortable saying directly to the owner. So you may have additional insight that can help them become better, right? And you can facilitate those conversations. What other strengths, opportunities are there in this relationship with related or multiple owners?
I mean, well, this is how I pitched Lucas to want to marry me. So, I mean, two can get there quicker than one, right? I mean, and I'm free for the most part. So I mean,
he's like, no.
So yeah.
And it's true, and I'll tie that into the other benefits. Some people listening in here may not be able to understand or comprehend. It's like being a parent or not a parent. You either understand or think you have an idea or not. Being a business owner. So I've been a great employee for someone else, and I had a level of ownership that I felt was at level 10. Like a lot of our people. Having said that, there's a whole nother level of ownership actually being the owner. Being a captain of a ship, let alone if there's a crack in the hull and the ship is going down. There's two captains making sure everybody's getting off safely. And, I hate to use a sinking ship analogy. You get my point. There's a level of such ownership, and there's trust in that alone, whether you're married or not. Mike Hicks and there's partners. I mean, there's a level of trust in that. They all captains of that ship. There's a level of ownership. So there's peace in that.
Well, there's like even through COVID and the shift, and we were shut down here in Michigan, and I mean, all of our businesses were turned upside down, and then you're leading, right? And there's two of us, and I don't know. I mean, we were working like 14, 16-hour days, just navigating through to make sure that everyone is taken care of. And I don't know, doing it together. I don't know. We've been through so much in life, just in general, that nothing even phases us anymore. Yet doing it together I wouldn't change it for the world. So
my other positive, and this is specifically for the husband and wife teams. Scientifically, do you know what hugs and kisses do for you? It's true. Now,
Mo Anderson tells us, right? How many 7 hugs a day so you don't get weird?
I sneak them all the time. I do my best to spare the team, but I sneak them all the time.
I was just going to say, does that make the team feel uncomfortable?
We do
Oh,
our,
they're used to our awkwardness.
I do our best to
No.
sneak in.
I usually forget they're married even. And then Elissa will be like, honey, and I'm like, and then I remember that they're married.
So Lucas, are you saying that hugs and kisses aren't happening on my leadership team?
I'm not sure, you know what? If I worked with Mike, I would hug and kiss that man every single day. I pretty much, I don't even get to spend enough time with him, but every time I'm with him, I walk away going, God, he could be my real estate dad. I just want to hug him and hold him.
I'll tell him you said that.
Having a conversation with him is like having a conversation with your dad where you walk away and everything's okay. Everything's okay.
That's why he does how many listings a year? 100 and something listings a year?
135, 140, somewhere around there.
He can list my home.
I love it. Jess, what were you going to add?
I was going to say, a lot of times, especially on husband-wife teams, when there's conflict and frustration, sometimes that's led by the fact that we are playing all in this game. I am not in real estate and Kalan's a teacher anymore. Like, we don't have a backup plan. I mean, we do kind of at this point, but especially when you start, you don't. And so there's a lot of, if this fails, that affects us, that affects everybody on our team, that affects our kid. But the amazing positive side of that is your goals and your dreams are now multiplied. They're not just mine. It's mine times Kalan times, his times mine. And to be able to, especially as a married couple, be able to have that huge, wildly unimaginable almost goal that you can both dream and push towards is amazing. Especially being able to do it. I mean, I feel like whatever jobs we had, I would have mine and he would have his, and we would be cheerleaders for each other in those roles. But being able to do that together is awesome.
Well, the level of investment of the leaders in each other is magnified, I believe, in this situation. And that benefits the team members as well, because their worlds expand. The level of investment of every leader is different than, when you're not. And I love that you brought that up. That's a great one. What else did we not cover that you guys want to add? And I don't know, I don't think anybody had any questions. I think they sent them all ahead of time.
I was just going to say the other benefit from the operations standpoint is just the ability to have multiple relationships at such a high level. Like, as an operations person, you can develop and you can lean on 2 or 3 different people. And there's things that I don't even need to go talk to Mike about. I can go talk to Sean about it, and I know I'm going to get what I need from Sean. And then there's things I know it's a people thing, I'm going to go talk to Chris and he's going to make it okay. Versus when it was just Sean and I, my only option was to talk to Sean. And if it was a people thing, he was like, I don't know if I really want to have this conversation, because that was not his strength zone. He didn't love that. If I wanted to go talk spreadsheet or numbers, he's like, let's talk. Right. But if it was like, oh, so-and-so's having problems at home, he's like, and now when you have multiple leaders from an operations standpoint, a support standpoint, that's just a huge benefit. Is you just opened up this giant bag of 3 different people that you could go to and say, hey, I need help on this. Can you help me? And having the proximity of multiple big thinkers powering your business, I think is such an asset. So I think about, Steph, you teach the 5 steps to develop a system. And one of those steps is brainstorming. When you brainstorm with leaders who come at things from different perspectives, your system is going to be way better. Your business, your results are going to be way better. Right? 100%. You got Mike saying, how's that going to work when we're doing 130 listings? And you've got Sean saying, ooh, we need to track this. And we've got Chris saying, oh, let me see how I can get the agents on board with that. I can get them to buy in. You're seeing all 3 different, they all have very much their strengths, and they're all able to make your system awesome, which is why I like rule number one when building systems is never brainstorm alone. You just shouldn't. You'll build a system in a silo that works for you, it works great in your head, but it may not work for everybody else. And that's the benefit of having high level thinkers. They will just pour into it and give their perspective and make it 10 times better. 1 + 1 + 1 equals like 96 when you're talking systems like that.
Unless you ask Sean, then
it only equals 3, always 3. You cannot argue with the math. 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. Exactly.
There you go.
Christy,
Anything else you guys want to add?
to your question, I have a question for the Howards and your ops people in general, all of your people. What we talked about those scripts. I feel like we have some just like common vernacular that keeps coming up and it kind of stays with our different conversations we have. What are any more of those openings to conversations that kind of set the tone for tough conversations, whether it be, I'm going to put on this hat, or like, hey, I need to run this by you from this perspective, or any of those things, whether it be Lucas and Elissa or Sam, when you're bringing something to them, what are those things? What are some of those other scripts that just help set the tone for those conversations?
Great question, Kalan.
I'm gonna take some notes here.
Well, with me, I like to get both of their perspectives, and I'm open and honest. Like, hey, go to Lucas. I've already talked to Elissa about this. I want to hear, what you have to say, or vice versa. And I think just being honest about that, so they know that I'm talking to both of them about the same topic, I think is super important. Because you never want to be like, okay, well, Lucas told me this and I'm not going to tell Elissa and just see what she says, that's just, you won't get anything out of it that benefits you. So I just think being honest is the key. That usually opens the script to talk about anything. It's just telling them what's going on and what I need, and it works out.
What else would you guys add? Scripts to bring up some challenging conversations.
Always, my go-to is always, hey, the story I'm telling myself that's my favorite one, because I often we are very much telling ourselves a story. We've got something going on in our head, and they can't read our minds. Like, we're not mind readers. We have come to some massive conclusion and told ourselves some big story, and that is nothing like what. So we have to go at it owning our part in it, right? I own this. This is the story I'm telling myself. Now you tell me your story, and let's figure out where the truth is, because it's somewhere in the middle.
Yep. Love that one. You took mine. That was mine.
Were you gonna say something?
I was just going to say, when someone brings something, I've read Chris Conversations. It changed my life. I'm just going to say, but I ask permission to challenge their story or where they're coming from. What I hear you saying is this, and may I have permission to, I spent years around Diana Kokoska. She said it to me. May I have permission, Lucas, to, I'm like, wow, you know what? So implementing those things, and it's on such a peace level. I actually think I said this on our last conversation, Christy, and it's some level of grace should be part of every single conversation. Actually, I'm going to go further and give a nugget, hopefully, is when you're working with your spouse or a partner. No one knows how to push my buttons more than this one, and vice versa. That aside, it's true though, right? It's true. So when you're working to each other, especially newly, I see this with a lot of couples or partners in business, especially newly working out, where they're not extending the same amount of grace as they would maybe to a team member. Mm-hmm. They talk to them different than they would another team member. Who more should you be extending that much more grace to in that position or role than the person you love, as an example?
Yeah, that's huge. And I think that's shifted in a good direction in the past 4 years, 5 years. Is just, having grace. We'll just say that.
But-
Sensing a story there.
Every single day, right? Growing and learning, and yeah, every single day to be better.
Back to that.
I was going to say too, and to Lucas's point, like you have to have these, these scripts that you have, and you and Elissa can have a conversation because there's trust there. And I cannot reiterate that enough is if you want your operations person to trust you, you have to give them a reason to trust you, which means when they come to you with an issue, you can't blow up and be like, well, you're wrong and I'm right, and just do what I say. Like, let's have enough trust. They're obviously coming with something that's concerning them. So Lucas, you may challenge them. And if you challenge them the way you did, the way you said that, do I have permission to challenge you? That will develop trust. But if you just say, you're wrong, I'm right, they're never going to come to you with any hard conversation. They'll just shut down and stop talking to you and just.
Right.
I think you have to be careful with the do I have permission question, because if you are a high D talking to an ops person who's an SC and you say that, they are going to please you and say yes when they don't mean it. So I think you have to be careful with that conversation. And for me, one way around that is what you just said, which was, what I heard you say is, because now you've said, I get what you're saying. I'm on your page. And sometimes we find out when we say what I heard you say was, we actually didn't really hear what they were saying. And now we can stop and clarify before we continue the conversation. So I love that you brought that script up.
That is one of the most powerful phrases I have ever learned, is what I heard you say is, and then repeating it, because a lot of the time what they repeat back to you is not what you heard. So you need to keep digging, and that gets rid of a lot of hurt feelings, tension, things like that, because really I feel like a lot of tough conversations result in a miscommunication, and nothing gets solved because you aren't hearing, they aren't hearing you. And that's a super powerful question.
To go along with that, Tally is virtual for us. She's in New York, we're in Missouri, and text communication sometimes. I mean, we do Zoom calls, but we're on Slack all day. And that doesn't mean, you have to have a virtual team member to be on Slack, but communication, sometimes via Slack and via text, it comes out completely different than what it comes out if you actually said it to the person, even on a phone call versus a Zoom call. And I know that there's times that Tally and I have had conversations, and I've had to start those conversations, or she back to me about, I'm not upset with this, and throw it in there, or I'm going to say this here, and kind of put a, disclaimer up front. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Tally has learned, kind of the way I put on some things that she, it's coming through in a certain way, not necessarily the text, how you would first take it.
I think we could do a whole coffee with Christy and crew on communication. I really
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree. And it'd be fun to do some role plays. Well, before we wrap up, because I want to respect everybody's time, Tally, Sam, Steph, as the people on teams, what if you had one thing to say, if I'm listening to this because I have a pain point on my team, what is your advice to the ops person?
Go Tally. You haven't spoken at all. You go.
My advice would be to check your perception, because I know when I first started on the team, anytime Jessica and Kalan would disagree on something, it was like awkward. But it was because I knew that they were married, and if that same situation had happened with anybody else on the team, wouldn't have thought twice about it. So check your perception.
Great point. Who else? Sam, Steph.
I was just going to say, get really good at communicating, and get really good at communicating with them both, and building a relationship with all of the involved parties. And that means you have to be an excellent communicator and a really good listener, right? I can't remember what book it was, but it said words are only the thing we use to describe the pictures in our head. And our picture could be completely different than what theirs is. And so we have to make sure that we are on the same page and we have really good communication with both parties, because they're communicating amongst each other. Then they're each communicating to us, all using words and body language. We just have to get clear and make sure we're all on the same page. We're all playing for the same team. It's not me and Sean against Mike, or Mike and Chris against me. I mean, we're all trying to do the same thing.
Yep. Sam, anything you want to add before we wind up?
The most important thing to me is just defining your roles and sticking to them. I think that is the foundation of it all, along with communication. I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah, and I think you can do that at any time. It's just like the expectations conversation that's part of career visioning. Whenever you're experiencing some bumps, you can pull that expectations conversation out and have it over again to reset. So sometimes we need to reset our teams. Thank you guys so much for taking time out. I know we had a lot of people that are challenged in this area, and I think you guys have navigated it so well and given us some really specific solutions. We're going to wind off, end our day, because it's St. Patty's Day, with may God bless your days in so many ways, with good friends to love and gifts from above, with sunshine and laughter and joy ever after. And I wish you guys a happy St. Patty's Day, and thank you guys for sharing time with us today. On Coffee with Christy and Crew. We'll see you guys later.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye.